Hello everyone, Charles Watts here. Welcome back to Inside Arsenal, where you can see once again I'm joined by Team News and Ticks for our now weekly show discussing all the latest Arsenal news and transfers, and lots of questions from you guys as well. Now, if you're not aware of how this show works at the moment, I'll just quickly run through it again to tell you before introducing Team News and Ticks. So we do half of it on my platform here on YouTube, and then we do the second half of it over on Team News' Ticks and platform at Patreon. You can get the link to the Patreon site down in the description below. Just click to that. Well worth your time. It's not just this, obviously, lots of daily news reporting from Team News and Ticks, so absolutely well worth your time. So get down. It's in the description there below. Right, nearly a minute in, and I haven't introduced you yet. How are you getting on, mate? You all good?
Yeah, all good. Got back obviously last week. I was in Saudi when we recorded. I got back Monday, had a very tired couple of days. Great week out there, very tired couple of days. But yeah, now back and firing and waiting for either transfer news to heat up or football to start, whatever comes first.
Yeah, whatever comes first. At the moment, it feels like football rather than transfers. But yeah, decent week in Saudi. You had a better week than Eddie Hearn.
Yeah, it was weird because I was speaking to him out there and he was just getting, like, throughout the week, he was great value as always. And then on the fight night, it's like you speak to him after the first fight and he's like, it's not too bad. We've got 4 to recover. Second one, he was gutted, but he was like, scorecards are fair. And he was just getting quieter and quieter. And when you see his like media personality, that's like the big brash character, and he's a lovely bloke, but you see that and then you sort of see him shrinking into himself as the night goes on. It was I like him, but it was fun to see.
Yeah, I saw it. I saw his you see his video posted on social on the plane back with Frank Warren. I thought it was quite funny. He took it pretty well, didn't he? But yeah, a bit of a mauling for his boys.
That was mental because we didn't leave until about 5-6 a.m. Saudi time, and I think he got on the plane at 8. So like none of the fighters, or most of the fighters, the ones coming back to London, flew back on the same flight as me. But they were in and out. Like they literally, they must have left the venue at said about 5. So I was in the press conference with Frank until then, and then they were on the plane at 8. It's like they didn't mess around.
No. Yeah, I bet he just wanted to get home and get away from Frank Warren as quickly as possible. And unfortunately, he's stuck on a plane the whole way home with him. But yeah, a bit of a bruising night for him. Very big bruising night for Wilder. That was that's got to be the end for him. Surely that was a big knockout, a real bad defeat. Another one.
Yeah, he so I'd come out of the changing room just before he was about to do his ring walk. I can't remember if it was one of the videos I put on Twitter or not. And again, all week, like loud, brash character, really funny, really nice man. As I've walked that changing room, he's 2 foot away from me, getting ready to ring walk. He's one of the scariest people I've ever seen. Like,
Really?
He was just marching about, like ready to go. Obviously, he's in the zone. He has his mask on. He's like warrior outfit thing. And I thought, I wouldn't want to be on the other side of this ring. Whereas Zhang is like a bubbly, bouncy character, not as serious, so to speak. But yeah, I walked out of this door and Wilder's 2 feet to my left, and I thought, no, I don't fancy this.
Yeah, didn't do him any good though, did it? Once he got into the ring, not the greatest of performances. Like you said, look, it's been really quiet still since the last time we spoke. Transfer wise, nothing really sort of kicked on since then. Are you surprised at the lack of movement? I keep getting questions and comments going, why is everything dragging on? What's the hold up? It's like, well, to be fair, it is literally June the 6th and the transfer window's not open yet. We're not exactly at the end of August yet. But are you surprised that nothing really has been done anywhere across the sort of leagues yet, aside from obviously small little transfer involving Kylian Mbappe?
Yeah, just a small minor one. No, I think we get, and look, me and you are both part of this problem. I think we get caught up with like Twitter, especially being 24/7 and people talking about news non-stop. It feels like stuff's dragging on forever. So like 15 years ago, say the Sesko situation, people wouldn't have even heard of it yet.
Yeah.
Whereas now it seems we've heard he's coming, he's not, he's at this stage, he's at that stage, it's gone backwards. Now this team's interested. And it seems like we've had probably 15 different updates on the Sesko situation, whereas, as I said, 15 years ago, we wouldn't have even heard of it yet.
Yeah.
So I think it seems to drag on just because we possibly have too much access. And look, like I said, me and you can't complain because we both make an income from it. But I do think that is why a lot of people say, it's dragging. I originally said a couple of weeks ago, I didn't really expect anything to happen before the Euros. But then again, myself, I get caught up in it because I'm hearing stuff from us. I'm hearing stuff from other clubs. I read stuff on Twitter the same as everyone else, not even necessarily just about Arsenal, but about everyone else. And you're like, oh, nothing's happening. And especially in the absence of football, because there's no games to distract you, it's like your sole focus is essentially transfer stuff. I mean, the Man City charges and the other side of the Man City suing the Premier League or whatever madness they're pretending they're going to do, has kind of distracted a little bit. But in reality, that's taken probably 3 hours of what is 2 weeks. So all the rest is who's doing what transfer is going on. So it does feel like everything's taken ages, even though it's not at all.
Yeah. Well, let's move on to some questions, because despite the fact that nothing's really moved on, we're still getting absolutely loads of questions, which you can understand because, like you said, when there's no football actually going on to take our mind away from things, transfers continues to sort of be the focus of things. And the Sesko one's an interesting one. Like when I talk about it here, sort of things dragging on. Like Sultan here says, question for you in TNAT: why is the delay in the Sesko deal? Is it because Arsenal are not willing to pay the release clause? And again, there is no delay, is there? That's the thing. No one's made any decision yet, so there isn't even a deal to be done yet because we don't know what Sesko is going to do. And ultimately, once he makes his decision, which I do actually think is going to come pretty soon, once he makes that decision, and then I think things will move forward. But the fact at the moment that we're still waiting for him to decide whether he is going to stay and sign a new contract at Leipzig or he is going to move on, that's why it's just a little bit of a sort of waiting game at the moment on that.
Yeah, I mean, I've got some questions later on for more of the business of football, which we're going to cover in the second half. But I also had a question very similar to this and about the delay. And look, no one is going to activate the release clause unless they know he's basically told them, I'm going to sign for you, because it's a PR disaster. It's a waste of everyone's time. So they'll do all the work behind the scenes. And I think it's highly likely that only one club will activate the release clause if he is to leave. It seems like he will. I think obviously Leipzig are still trying to keep him because they would like a higher fee for him, but it seems like they think he's going to leave. But yeah, I don't see the benefit for him dragging it on, because once the Euros start, you're not, if he delays by another, say, 10 days now, you're effectively delaying by over a month. But then it always falls into, especially with tournaments, it falls into, say he says next Wednesday, for example, okay, I want to go to whatever club. By the time they get the medical in, they probably won't even want to do a medical with the Euros coming up, because you don't want to complete it and then he do his ACL and now you're stuck with someone that you've completed on for a year. So we may hear news of what he's decided soon, but I wouldn't expect anything complete for, till July, really.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think we'll probably hear something. It certainly sounds like we're going to hear something decision-wise in the next week or so. But then, yeah, I'm not expecting the deal to then happen before the Euros. I just think we're too close to it now for that to happen. Like you said, it makes perfect sense for the club who's about to spend a load of money on him to make sure he doesn't pick up a really bad injury during the summer. So I think that makes perfect business sense. But yeah, I mean, it's just not a delay, is it? I agree exactly what you said at the start. I think the way that we all sort of follow transfers and the way that transfers work now and how 24/7 social media is and all the internet is, that it feels like things are dragging on, but in fact it's only been like a couple of days. Really, it's like back in the day when I used to type in 312 on teletext to get my transfer news and just watch it revolve, the pages changing during the day, and that was it. And then you pick up the paper the next morning. That was all you used to hear was in transfers was that. But now, obviously, everything's 24/7. It's completely different, and it just makes these deals feel like it's dragging on when they're actually not.
Yeah, I mean, I remember one. I don't know why it sticks in my head so clearly, but when we signed Jose Antonio Reyes, rest in peace, it was someone said to me, "Had you heard the news?" And I was like, "What? Like, it's because news wasn't a thing then, really." And I remember going on teletext. And it said, like, I don't know if it said in talks, I can't remember the terminology they used to use in them days, but I think once it had made teletext, that meant it was happening. There wasn't no rumours and speculation. And it was like, I just remember it being like an evening. And I was like, oh my God, we signed, because I'd seen him play a couple of times when we used to get one La Liga game a week on Sky Sports.
Oh,
And
just
he
before that, I'm so excited by that transfer. So excited by it because I loved Reyes. It was about a month before that, Sevilla battered Madrid like 4-0 at Sevilla, and Reyes was just an absolute sensation in it. I just remember sitting in my parents' front room watching that game, and I was like, "Who is this kid? He's amazing!" And not long afterwards, suddenly we'd spent a load of money and brought him in. I was so excited by it. I loved Reyes because of that. It was just such an exciting signing, and we signed. I found out we signed Bergkamp on Teletext. Obviously, I knew we were talking to him and it'd been in the newspapers and stuff like that. But I remember the actual confirmation of the deal came through on Teletext. My dad saw it. Actually, I was playing football in my back garden with my brother, and my dad saw it on Teletext and came running out and opened the back door and shouted that we signed him. And Lauren was another one who I saw on Teletext that we'd signed. Those were the days.
Well, I mean, just with Bergkamp, I remember Ian Wright's famous story, whether it's true or not, but he said he saw him at a petrol station on the way.
Yeah, he just signed, didn't he? He'd left Colney, just signed, went to the petrol station and bumped into Wrighty.
Yeah, he said I've just joined, and it's crazy. So even because now players read rumours. I mean, we saw recently Ramsdale reply to a rumour on Twitter, and I think it might have been Ramsdale, and he'd done an interview, and they said to him, "How much do you know about signing the players we're bringing in?" And he said it was this summer we signed Zinchenko and Jesus, and he said Jesus we all sort of knew about quite early. He said we didn't know the name, but we knew the profile we wanted, and he knew Jesus fitted that, and obviously Arteta had worked with him before. But he said Zinchenko, it was like he saw a rumour on Twitter on Tuesday, and on Thursday Zinchenko was in training. So it shows that the players are still also on, like, listening to all these transfer rumours, and sometimes they don't know any more than anyone else.
No, absolutely. Right, you got a question?
Yeah. So it's also transfer related. If you had to stick a bet on one summer signing for Arsenal that isn't named David Raya, who would it be and why? And I'm just going to say, don't gamble, kids, or bet responsibly, whatever the message is meant to be these days.
Yeah, gamble responsibly. If not David Raya. Oh God, that's really hard. I would probably say Sesko at the moment, the way things are heading, but absolutely wouldn't be 100% convinced. But I'd probably say him. What about you?
Yeah, I think the nature is to go with the one that we all know we're most advanced with.
Yeah.
So we all know we've been in talks with him. We'd heard about the issues that potentially we may have in trying to tempt him, and then obviously John Cross said we've negated all those issues. I know he didn't go as far as saying full agreement, but essentially that's what he was getting at. So if you're at a point where you believe John and you have an agreement with the player, you have to go with that one at this moment in time.
Yeah, I'd go along with that. I just wanted to flag, actually, I didn't say this at the start of the show. Again, this is pre-recorded on Thursday and it's going out on Friday. So if something has happened between 1:30 p.m. on Thursday, which is the exact time that this is right now, that we haven't spoken about, that is why. And that we haven't responded to, that is why. It's because it's pre-recorded, but it's going out on Friday. So that's the reason. So yeah, I was supposed to say that at the start and I forgot. So yeah.
Can I just jump in quickly? Both weeks we've done this, something has happened.
I know.
So put your light on something. We had Paqueta first week and then the John Cross Sesko thing last week. So it seems like the world waits for us to finish recording and then breaks a story.
Exactly. As you mentioned in Crossy's story there, that just made it pop into my head that I had to flag it. This is a pre-recorded show. Again, while we're on Sesko, actually, and we're still talking about him, I've got another Sesko-related question from Aaron. It says, hi, Charles and TNAT. If Arsenal fails to sign Sesko, who will they go for? Romano mentioned that Osimhen and Napoli both expect him to leave this summer and searching market opportunities, which is something Edu and Arteta are very good at searching up and using. If by any chance Napoli decides to take a different structure rather than the release clause, how are your thoughts on Arsenal signing Osimhen? Obviously, he's the most proven goal scorer on the market right now. Do you want to go first with that on the Osimhen stuff?
Yeah, I'm going to start off maybe a touch controversially and say I'm not the biggest fan, to be honest. I'm not sure he'd overly suit. I think pressing's good. He's obviously goal scoring record's good. I'm not sure about the link up, but it's a weird one because I was told in November that he was our primary target as a striker. I didn't really believe it, to be honest. What? Not I didn't believe it. I couldn't see it, so I didn't put anything out there. And then I'm not sure if he's full at, but there's account Mo Arsenal. There may be some numbers on the end of that. Said it. I think it was towards the end of November / early December. So I was like, okay, someone else has heard it. There must be something in it. And I can honestly say I've not heard his name mentioned since, like from any of my contacts.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what happened there to go from being sort of the primary target, so to speak, to absolutely nothing at all. He obviously signed a new contract since, but that at the time I remember thinking people going, oh well, he's got no release clause, which means we can actually get him for less. So people were thinking he was going to be worth sort of 150 million, and I believe the release clause is 120, so maybe euros, but that means he's available for less, and there wouldn't be a bidding war. But it's weird how it all went completely quiet on him for months, and then now we're starting to hear it again. But it's very loose. There's nothing solid saying like Arsenal are going for him. It just feels like it's convenient that the world knows we're looking for a 9. He's a 9. He's potentially available.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's a weird one with that. I can't really see it happening, to be honest.
I can't, and I haven't heard anything with Osimhen and Arsenal since I know the summer that we signed Jesus. They were definitely talking to Osimhen. They had his agent over. He was at Colney, met with Edu. He was definitely on the agenda that summer, but Jesus was always a priority. And I've not heard that since then that anything has sort of continued in terms of contacts and talks or anything like that. And I'd be surprised if anything happened from this. So I'm like you. I like Osimhen, but I'm not sure he's the one for Arsenal. If you see what I mean. And I just think he'd be so expensive. And I do wonder if he's too expensive for the market, if you see what I mean, this summer. I'm not sure I see someone going for it. The fact that Chelsea have sort of apparently walked away from any discussions with him, and I just feel like he might be too expensive for the market, and he might be priced out of a move this summer. And I'm not sure if Arsenal don't get Sesko that they suddenly think, okay, we're going to go and spend £70 million more and get Osimhen. I'd just be really surprised by that.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say. Obviously, I think the release clause actually works against him because, as you said, if we don't get Sesko, you then have to go and spend double, almost, or more than double, on someone else. And as I said, release clauses work great for the teams when there's loads of other bidders because you know what you're going to have to pay, and obviously the selling club can't really do much about it. But when there's no interest, and it all depends if Napoli want to keep him, because if they want to keep him, then the release clause does them a favour because if anyone offers less, they say no because they want to keep him. If they want to get rid of him, they're actually in a sticky situation because it looks like no one's going to pay the release clause because they've got no rivals for his signature. So you can go under, and then it depends on what they value him at versus what the potential buyers value him at. I mean, I think I saw the other day, and I don't know how reliable it is because I can't say I'm great with French news, that PSG have said they're not really interested and they're going to stick with Kolo Muani. Said, as you said, Chelsea seem to have pulled out. Who else really needs a striker? And it's not a long list of people that actually need a 9. It depends if Liverpool stick with Nunez. United have obviously spent big on Højlund, who's young and they want to develop. So I can't see them spending big on someone else that will get in his way. So that the market's small, which means in theory you can go under the value that's wanted. The only reason there's so much interest in Sesko is because the release clause is what teams is less than what teams to perceive him to be worth. So you're sort of already under market value with him. But other strikers, you're not, like, you look at Ivan Toney, you're not hearing anyone linked with him at the moment. Most strikers, then it's not like they've got loads of suitors. There was rumours yesterday about Julian Alvarez, and you're not seeing tons of teams linked with him. Striker market is just very weird at the moment.
I wonder if he might end up at Saudi Osimhen. There's been links with Saudi and Osimhen before, isn't there? Maybe
yeah, I know. Last year, Napoli really fought to hold him off from Saudi, and I don't know if this actually happened, but the talk at the time was he was going to have 2 release clauses: a Saudi one, which was 30 million more, and a non-Saudi one. I don't know why they would do that. Money's money, but I guess they thought they could just eke more out of them. But I don't know if that actually happened in the end. But that was the talk last summer.
Yeah. In terms of this question, if Arsenal fails to sign Sesko, do you think if they don't get him? I was talking about this actually on my. I was on the Arscast with Andrew. Would have gone out this morning actually. Do you think if they don't sign Sesko, that they definitely still go and sign another striker, or do you think they hold off until maybe another guy comes on the market in a year's time that they really, really want. See, I'm not convinced they'll absolutely panic and go and definitely get another striker if they don't get Sesko. I wonder if they might sort of turn their attentions to a winger or something like that who's going to add the goals. I don't think it's an absolute given if they miss out on Sesko that they definitely sign a number 9. What about you?
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And you just said what I was about to say. I think they'd turn attention to a multifaceted winger, be it someone that can either play in multiple positions or operate different roles, ball to feet, go running behind, just to give us something different. I don't think it'll be, we've missed out on a big 9 in Sesko, so let's look at the other big 9 options, be it Osimhen, Tony, or Vlahovic, or I'm trying to think of other big 9s, but I mean, the point remains.
Yeah, I agree with that. Right, cheers for that, Aaron. You got a question, mate?
Yeah, this is not so much transfer related, but something that you may have heard sort of being around in press conference and stuff. Saka is not as explosive or as fast as he was in the all or nothing season. Do you think this is due to niggly injuries, fatigue, or him becoming physically bigger and losing some of that speed that he had 3 years ago?
That's an interesting one. I mean, I'm purely guessing if I answer that. I wonder if it might be more to do with the final one. I mean, look, he definitely gets a lot of kicks, but I'm not sure he would have. I don't, and also actually, sort of going back to, I don't ever really remember Saka as being a proper explosive winger. I just think we think he was. Do you? He's never been absolute lightning quick or anything like that. Do you think he has? Do you think he was?
No, I do think he looks to have slightly slowed down, but I don't think he was ever sort of an electric pace. The pace was never the scary thing. It's like, say, a Theo Walcott, defenders playing against him were like, we can't give this guy space in behind. Saka was never like that. I do. So my answer to the question would be, I think it's a mixture of the things. His injuries, he's been flying away routinely to get his injuries looked at. He misses training all the time, so I'd imagine that would play a part in it. But also his strength. I was actually speaking to a Premier League fullback about a month before the season ended, and they said Saka is one of the strongest players they've played against. And it's one of them, once he gets half a yard in front of you, he's so strong and uses his body so well that he doesn't necessarily need to accelerate away from you.
Kind of like Eden Hazard.
Yeah, there's no way you're getting back round him once he's in front of you. The player that said it to me said that the 2 strongest players, especially pound for pound, that he's ever played against are Raheem Sterling and Saka. Obviously, Sterling is very, very quick as well. But I know he was always known as pound for pound the strongest player in the league, and even arguably the strongest player anyway, despite being 5'0". But yeah, Saka, I think, as I said, I think there is a bit of the bulk's gone on there, which will naturally slow you down, and the injuries. But as you said, he's never going to be an absolute flyer, and especially players that are good ball to feet, you don't seem to notice their pace because they're getting the ball and then beating a man. And it's a lot harder to run with a ball. Yeah. Whereas, say, someone like Walcott, and I don't mean this disrespectfully because I love Theo Walcott, he was pretty useless with the ball to feet. His thing was running in behind, and that was when you notice the speed, because he'd give players a 5-7 yard start and still win the race. Whereas someone like Saka, who needs the ball to feet, is never giving anyone a head start because he wants to be in front of them and beating them.
Yeah, no, it's a really good point. Really good. Right, I've got one here from Scott, and it's about the Man City case. He says, do either of you have any details in the story today that it was Arsenal that leaked the details of the City case against the Premier League this week? As well, do you think the City cases will give us an advantage next season? I personally think City get away with murdering games and are very lucky to do so. I just have a feeling next season every team will be out to get them, and I can see nothing going away. Keep up the good work, fellas. Come on, the Arsenal. I don't actually know where this story has come from, that Arsenal leaked the details. I think I saw it mentioned yesterday that it was someone said it was Arsenal, but I think that was purely based on the fact that Edu had given that interview the other day saying there's some things I can't say about Manchester City. And so social media sort of linked 2 and 2 together and suddenly said that Arsenal had leaked the story of it. I don't think there's any more substance to it from that. I certainly haven't heard it. I understand that Arsenal are going to be involved in the case against Manchester City in terms of they're going to be sort of giving evidence against them, as well as multiple other Premier League teams in that case. But I don't think there's anything of substance in the sort of the fact that it was Arsenal who's deliberately leaked the details of this case to the Premier League. I don't know if you know anything different to that.
I think it was a City ITK who I'd never heard of until yesterday that initially said it, and it gained traction. But I spoke to a couple of people at City this morning who said that ITK is he definitely knows people and he gets stuff right, but they feel like he's throwing 1,000 things out there in the hope that one sticks. So they're not particularly saying it was Arsenal. It's just, I think that's where it's come from.
I mean, the case starts on Monday, so it was always going to come out at some point in the lead up to this, wasn't it? I don't think it was going to. The fact that the case is now literally just a few days around the corner that it starts, that it's come out.
Well, yeah, I mean, as the case in no one knew the date of the 115 charges case, and I think that's now pretty much been confirmed as November, and that's come out 6 months early. Mm-hmm. So yeah, this case coming out 3 days before. They've actually held on to it for quite a while, and as you said, it was always going to come out. I think the story was today, and I don't know who it was from, so I do want to credit whoever it was, but I actually don't know that there's 5 or 6 clubs going to be giving evidence against them. I don't really understand, and you'll probably be in a much better place to answer this, what evidence they can give, because it's essentially about them inflating sponsorship. But as someone from the outside, you can say, okay, this is what we earned, but that's sort of public-ish knowledge anyway.
It is. Have you seen Sam over at the Telegraph did a great thread on his Twitter on the commercial revenues and the increases? Have you seen it?
Yeah, I saw it, and there was a year that City's percentage increase beat all of the other top 6 combined.
Started off in 2007, 2008, which is the last season before the takeover. Their commercial revenues are 21 million. Miles lower. Arsenal's was 44, Liverpool 52, Chelsea 61, and Manchester 64. Then the final one, the 2024, shows that City had commercial revenues of 340 million in 2022-23, miles ahead of everyone else. Basically, they've gone up 1,177% from 2009. Arsenal's have gone up 131%, Chelsea 249%, Liverpool 174%. United 300%, Manchester City 1,200%. It's mental.
Yeah, I mean, but to be honest, forget the City case for a second. One of my takeaways from that was, have Arsenal been doing enough?
Because but that's always been the sort of leveled against Arsenal, isn't it? Commercial-wise, it's just not been great. And I mean, they lag behind Chelsea. I mean, Tottenham now, don't they? I think in terms of commercial.
Yeah, I think Tottenham are creeping up very quickly because of the stadium, obviously the concerts, the NFL, and I actually think if all things were fair, Tottenham would be pretty hard to compete with on that table. Because I'm saying that they didn't have a sponsor. Well, they still haven't. They were looking for naming rights for the stadium for forever, and I think they must have just given up on that because they've still not got it. But in terms of Tottenham are hard to keep up with the stadium, obviously ticket costs being in London similar to ours, but then concerts, boxing. I think they've got a go-karting track underneath, haven't they? They've got that stupid thing where you can jump off the stadium. Like it's a proper venue. It's not a football stadium. Don't get me wrong. It's actually a great place to watch football. If I was ever give Tottenham credit for anything, the stadium's really good. But it's more like the O2 where there's loads of stuff to do rather than what you'd say with the Emirates and every other ground in the country actually where they're just dedicated, or every other ground in the Premier League, where they're dedicated football grounds.
Yeah. Do you reckon City, what's going on with City, like Scott suggests here, do you think it would give Arsenal advantage? Do you think it will be us against them for pretty much everyone when they play Manchester City next season or not? Because it sounds like they do actually have some, supporters in the Premier League when it comes to their case that they're lodging.
Well, I mean, the supporters are all the clubs that want to spend loads of money without restrictions. So it's Newcastle, Villa, and I forgot Chelsea. No, I think what will happen is teams will pretend or think they're overly against them, and then what happens every year, there's easier points to pick up. And like City are very good, so if you're a relegation threatened team and you've got City away on Saturday and then Wolves at home on the Tuesday, you're gonna rest players against City, or even if you're not resting players, you're going to take 5% of your mind off it thinking we need to be on it on Thursday. I know every 3 points is worth the same, but the 3 points at home to Wolves is a lot less likely.
Yeah.
I don't think, I don't even know how to put this into words. like teams aren't naturally throwing games against City and not trying. They're just realizing that assets are better used elsewhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, even look at Aston Villa at the end of last season, what they did, the team they put out when they went to the Etihad. It was,
And again, I think with that, obviously, it wasn't great for us. But they played. Who did they play on the weekend? Because it was the weekend we was at City away. I can't remember who Villa played.
Mm-hmm.
It might have been that crazy game with, was it Bournemouth, where it was 3-3 or 4-4 or something crazy. But they then Watkins was injured. They had a couple of players out, and again, they were obviously still in Europe at the time. And they thought, with Watkins out, I think Martinez was out, we're probably not going to win anyway, and we've got bigger fish to fry. And look, he probably did go too far in terms of he basically changed everyone and threw it. But it comes down to the same thing, that if you think you've got better chances elsewhere, why waste resources?
Yeah. Right, you move on to your one?
Yeah, I've actually got one that's pretty similar to what we've been talking about. With the impressive increase in commercial revenue at Arsenal over the last year or so, a lot of praise has been given to Juliet Slot. Earlier in the season, there was a lot of finger pointing in her direction regarding the new/awful ticket and ballot system. Does she have any involvement, and are the club looking to change the ticketing system for next season? I think the any involvement is in the commercial side of things, because she obviously is the commercial officer. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of a two-part question. Does she have input in that, and anything on the ticketing system?
Well, I know they're always open and always talking to various groups about how they can improve the ticketing system, and they know for well that it's a really controversial subject. I don't know what their plans are for if they are going to change it this summer, if we're going to hear from that. So I don't know, but I know they are, and it sounds like a sort of PR response, I suppose, from them, is that, we're always talking in a way to try and improve it. But I know they are, they're, and you talk to people at the Arsenal Supporters Trust, and they are always at pains to say that they are trying to get things where everyone is happy. I mean, I'm fortunate I don't have to deal with the ballot. I'm a season ticket holder, so I don't have to deal with the ballot. But I know so many of my mates who do, and who go and just say it's such a just awful experience, and that there has to be a better way of doing it. There should be more rewards for sort of long-term fans who've been buying the tickets for more, and I get that, and I feel the frustration of it all. But I have to say, because I'm a season ticket holder, that I don't have to deal with it. So I'm kind of always on the outside looking in and seeing all the complaints about it, but I've never actually really experienced it myself.
Yeah, I'm the same. Obviously, I'm a season ticket holder with pretty much maximum away credits as well, and anything I can't get, I'll get through someone else. So I'm the same. I see people sort of moaning about it, but have never had to deal with it. And it doesn't really seem fair. But what I will say is I don't see a fair option that works for everyone. You're never going to please everyone. And I think that's the trouble. I did always wonder, and actually this is a good question to ask you. Why is there always misinformation about tickets in the press? And I'm not saying particularly you, but it's like when they talk about Arsenal's ticket prices, they use a completely unrealistic, like, they don't mention the extra games, they just mention the extra money. There's prices that are completely made up. And also I was surprised that when they changed the away tickets, when they went really militant on it, not the season just finished, the one before, there was no coverage of that. I mean, I had a big rant on it on Twitter at one point, because they were saying it had to be the person that gained the credits, which, okay, fair enough. And there was no exceptions. They were banning tickets on the turnstiles. But then I remember at Villa away, they were showing it sold out to say 40 plus credits. They were showing a 6-year-old get his shirt, I think it was Ramsdale's, and they were celebrating that. And it was like, well, that kid can't have possibly earned the credits. Mm-hmm. And it never sort of really got picked up what fans were going through.
Yeah, I suppose it's just and it sounds like a crap answer, but it's for sort of mainstream media. It's just the sort of stories that do they really register? Are they going to generate? Are they going to do enough for the paper and sell papers and stuff like that? The ones that you were talking about at the start. I mean, as a season ticket holder myself for long term, it used to do my head in when the way it was reported with Arsenal season ticket prices and the fact that cup games weren't included in it, and it just felt like such an easy win and just a proper clickbaity story, didn't it? Every single time. It's like, Arsenal the most expensive. They're 200 quid more expensive than anyone else, but they failed to completely mention all the extra games you get included in that. I used to absolutely do my head in it about it. But I just think a lot of that was just sort of online reporting, internet reporting, where they just don't really look into it too deeply. They just grab the sort of headline number and just run with it, and that's about it.
Did you see Darren Arsenal one? I think is on Twitter, reported the other day that I think it was $500,000 a season. I might be wrong on that.
Yeah, I did see that. Yeah,
crazy.
Fancy that?
Yeah, I'll have 3 of them.
Yeah, I wonder, they'll sell them though. Absolutely, I bet you they would sell them. They would sell them.
Yeah, I mean, as well, they're pretty much a tax write-off. So, like, these big companies can sell to other big companies. It's like you go around, not so much club level, but club level to extent, but the one above that, Diamond Club, the boxes are half empty most of the time because they're a write-off, and they'll use them if they have meat, and they use them to sort of wine and dine clients. But I would actually love to know, because obviously we've just changed it to, I think it's if you don't utilize your tickets for 3 games of your season ticket next season, you lose it. It was 5. But I mean, if Diamond Club had that, there'd be a turnover there'd be all turnover every year. The thing is, the tickets aren't named, so they can't ban an individual person, and they're not going to get rid of a company that have probably paid for 5 years in advance for a box and paid, a handsome sum.
No, exactly. No chance of them doing that. But yeah, 3 games. That's it was 5 before, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was 5. I don't know what it was the year before that, but it was 5, and then now it's 3.
Yeah, 3. Right, here's one from Harj, I think that is. Says, hi Charles and TNT. Do you think Adam Wharton is someone who Arsenal may be looking at in the 6th position, young, homegrown PL experience? I tell you what, Adam Wharton, that is just by the week looking a better and better piece of business by Crystal Palace, isn't it? I'm stunned that no one else went in for him, because I remember seeing him in the playoff semi-final the year before. I remember Blackburn Millwall, that mad. Was it a playoff? Am I getting that wrong? No, it wasn't a playoff semi-final. Was that a relegation game? It was a relegate. It was like the loser goes down or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, I remember the game, and it was like 4-2, one team led, and
yeah, it was a mental game, and Wharton was just unbelievable in it, like absolutely unbelievable in it. And I was so surprised no one has sort of picked him up until Palace eventually took the plunge, and it just looking like a hell of a piece of business. And they, I don't think Arsenal are going to go for him this summer by any means, but I saw Bayern Munich have been linked with him already this summer, and Palace are either going to keep hold of him and have a hell of a player on their hands by the looks of it, or they're going to make a massive amount of money in a very short space of time.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's top draw. I can't see them selling him. They're going to lose one of Eze and Elise, maybe both. They'll be interesting. Gahey. They just don't need to. And even if they were to sell him, they'd be looking north of 70. Surely they signed him for 20. Obviously, he's impressed in the Premier League. He's young. He's now got England caps. He's going to get more.
I reckon it's going to take him. I reckon he might go to the Euros.
Yeah, I think he will, especially with all the press noise around him after that game the other day. Whether he gets any minutes out there is a different story, but I think he'll go. And Southgate does like to have people in that, because Southgate thinks 26 is too big for a squad. So bringing people that aren't necessarily going to be demanding to play, but it will suit them in good stead for future tournaments. Mm-hmm. He does like doing that. So I think Wharton will go. In terms of us, I know we watched him when he was at Blackburn, and I've seen people go, "Oh well, why didn't we pull the trigger then? We're always missing out, always too slow." But the fact is, everyone would have known about him, and everyone does the same thing. And for every Wharton, there's a Alex Scott, who we also looked at, and so did loads of other Premier League teams, ended up at Bournemouth and has looked okay in patches, but now no one's going, "Oh, we should have got him." If we'd have got him, and he'd have had no minutes, everyone would be going, "Oh, what do we waste money on him for? That 20 million could have been spent on X, Y, Z."
Yeah.
So I think, look, you lose a lot. Huh?
It's just the way football operates, isn't it? People say a lot about all the players at Brighton, isn't it? It's like, oh, why didn't they just do what Brighton do and scout the players and get them for 5 million rather than wait for them to go to Brighton and then sign them for 40 or 50 million? And which is an easy thing to say, but it's just the way football operates, isn't it? The bigger clubs can kind of wait until that they do go to the sort of mid-table clubs that can make the move. Then they can see how they handle it there, and then they'll make the move, and they don't care if they have to spend a little bit more money on them.
Well, yeah, and also, like, had we signed Wharton in January, for example, he'd have probably played less than 300 Premier League minutes. He wouldn't be in the England squad, and no one would be going, "Oh, what a signing that was." Sometimes, like, I know that the clubs say Arsenal want to see the players at that level to see if they can cope anyway. So they would like them, in a way, they want them to go to a Palace, because then they can see if they're ready for the level. But also, if they do come directly to us, they're not going to get that chance to shine anyway. So you wouldn't know, and not playing could cause them trouble, and their level could slide off. Also, the move to a big club too early, the big money. I think the clubs get a lot more right than they get wrong. But when they do get them wrong, like in this Wharton's, or not even particularly get it wrong, but when the player's shown to be a good player, everyone goes, "Oh, why didn't we do it in whenever it was?"
Mm-hmm. Yep. He does look a hell of a talent, though. Fair play to Crystal Palace. Got a good player on their hands there.
Yeah. I remember when they played City at home, I think they lost 4-2 in the end. And one of my friends rang me on the day of the game. We was travelling somewhere, I can't remember where we was playing. Brighton. And he was like, Brighton. And he was like, Palace have got no chance. None of them progressed the ball. And I said, this Wharton kid can play. He'll get the ball forward. And that same friend rang me the other day and was saying, "Do you think we've got a chance of Wharton?" He's like, he's unbelievable. So it's crazy how people have gone from not knowing him to thinking, what a player. In that Brighton game was in April.
Yeah.
I think. Right.
Yeah. I remember that. It was on the way to Brighton. Palace went in front, didn't they? It was another one of those games where you think, "Oh, we got a chance. And then no, Man City come back and win again.
Yeah. Are we calling half time there?
No, I reckon go have one more each and then we'll call half time.
Okay, no worries. Actually kind of relates to not in a sense. What's the whole deal with tapping up? Pretty sure every club does it now. But on the odd occasion, a club reports another club for doing it, and one that comes to mind is Palace and Elise, or Chelsea and Elise last summer. I know it from my point of view, but what's your takes on it?
I mean, it just depends, doesn't it? It's like, obviously it goes on all the time. Of course it does. But it just depends how blatant the clubs are with it, isn't it? And if you really sort of get in and turn the player's head, obviously most of the time the discussions are supposed to purely be, well, they would be with the agent behind the scenes rather than talking directly to the player. And the rare occasion, if you do get busted talking directly to the player, then you're in danger of getting done for tapping up. But of course, it happens all the time, 100%. No one's stupid about it. I mean, look, Declan Rice, they were slightly different with Declan Rice because everyone knew what was going to happen there, and West Ham were well aware what was going to happen at the end of the season. So there was more flexibility in allowing him to sort of to discuss his move well ahead of time. But yeah, I mean, it just happens all the time. But mainly, the clubs will mainly spend the time talking to the agents, not directly themselves face to face with the player. But it does happen on occasion. If you get busted doing that, then you're in trouble.
Yeah, I guess I was going to say similar. It's if they're actually talking directly to the player rather than his representatives, because there's nothing to say you can't speak to his representative, because there's no guarantee that you're talking about that player. So it's a he said, she said, and you'll never get done for that. And as you said with Rice, they knew he was going, and they probably didn't want him talking to clubs. But if he's going, they want him to put the feelers out. Interestingly, I had a journalist when I put a load of Rice stuff out. I think it was either just after the season finished or just towards the end of the season. I did have a journalist that I know is very well connected with Arsenal contact me and say, like, you should probably keep this a little bit quieter due to the potential tapping up stuff. That same journalist did then run the exact same story 2 weeks later, but that's neither here nor there.
Cool. Right, let's move on to the last one, and this is on midfielders from looks like Abu Bakari. He says, "Hi Charles and TNAT. Do you think Partey has to leave for us to sign a midfielder?" Of course, then goes on to talk about sort of various midfielders and positions that they can play and how Arsenal could be left light. I mean, what do you think? I don't think Partey has to leave for Arsenal to sign a midfielder. I think it would be probably what the club would like to happen. But I still don't think if Partey stays, which to be fair, I think is certainly looking more likely than not at the moment. I still think they can go out and sign a midfielder as well. Because I think when you look at it, Rice, Partey, Jorginho, and another, I still think there's game time for everyone there. And you're also covering for a player who you have no confidence is going to be fit for even half the season, let alone all of it. So no, I don't think he has to go. But I think Arsenal would prefer that to happen. But I don't think he has to.
Yeah, I think we sign one if he stays and two if he goes. If you look at it from, say, this point last summer or the first day of the season last summer, we're basically gonna lose 3 because El Nenny's gone. Okay, his minutes were very limited, but we all presume one of Vieira or Smith Rowe are gonna go, who Arteta obviously used as 8s, and then Kai we've essentially lost as an 8 because he's a 9. So I think just body wise we're short. So I think it'll be 1 if Partey stays, and then maybe someone brought up from like say Ethan to replace El Nenny's minutes. Obviously, I don't mean in terms of position because El Nenny's deeper, but to replace the minutes.
Yeah.
If Partey goes, I think we might sign 2, but one sort of bigger, more expensive, bigger profile, and more expensive, and then another one in the sort of 30 million range. And it's where I see the links to Fofana from Monaco.
Yeah,
I think that would be one that would be if Partey goes, then we sign whether it be Bruno, Neves, Douglas Luiz, whoever, and possibly a Fofana. That's how I see it playing out.
Fofana looks like a very good piece of business potentially, doesn't he? For the price this summer, if the price is to be believed, it looks like you might be able to get him for a fairly decent amount of money. It looks like a potentially decent bit of business for someone this summer.
Yeah, I'm surprised I've not seen his name linked everywhere and people over him. I mean, with us, it seems like it's the fans that are more mentioning his name, and that happens with Arsenal. I know the Diamonde, the Sporting Lisbon centre back, fans talk about him non-stop, and I've never heard anyone from the club even mention his name. And that's what it seems like with fans. And you're not seeing like Man United need midfielders, but they're not linked with Fofana strongly. The other thing, Liverpool potentially going to need a midfielder. They're not linked strongly, and it's a strange one with him because fans of a lot of clubs seem to love him and think he's the ideal signing. But and the price reportedly is, as you said, a pretty nice one. But there's no one sort of jumping on it.
No, I think with Fofana, he played really well at the Emirates Cup, didn't he? In that game,
it was unbelievable.
Yeah, and everyone who was there was just like, Jesus, this guy is really, really decent. And I think that's kind of stuck in a lot of people's heads. It's like the way I talk about Onana after that performance at Goodison Park he put in against Arsenal. When you see someone in the flesh putting a performance as good as that, it's very hard to get that out of your head, and you always quite fancy him coming to the club. So I think a lot of Arsenal fans got that match in their memories. But
I wonder as well if people are a bit stung by, like, opinions are a bit stung with Monaco midfielders. Obviously, they've had like Bernardo Silva's gone and done excellent at Man City, but you had who was the guy that Chelsea signed? Was it Bakayoko? And then there was also Kondogbia who looked unbelievable. I remember the Champions League game against us. He looked like the best player in the world. And then look, he's been at Atletico Madrid. He's had decent clubs, but he's never reached that level. That is actually that whole Monaco team that got to the Champions League. Was it semi or final? Final.
No, it was a semi, wasn't it?
Well, I can't remember, to be honest, but all of them never really, like, they had the fullback, Sidibe, the fullback on the other side. I forget who it was, but none of them ever sort of went and kicked on.
Fabinho had a decent.
Yeah, to be fair, top class Fabinho. I just wonder if certain clubs get that reputation. It's like the Ajax team that obviously lost to Tottenham in the Champions League semi-final.
Yeah.
All of them sort of look like superstars, and you obviously had Van der Beek go to Man United and do nothing. Ziyech went to Chelsea and done nothing really. Frenkie has arguably not lived up to the reputation he had. De Jong, the same. And I just wonder if groups of players sometimes get that reputation of they were good in a time, in a system that worked for them.
Yeah. Fofana kind of feels like that. It wouldn't surprise me if he ends up at somewhere, be almost like a. Remember the reaction when Spurs signed Basuma from Brighton, and it was like the world had ended on Arsenal Twitter for a couple of days. It feels like Fofana will probably end up somewhere like that, like go to Tottenham or something like that, or Chelsea will just do it at the last minute of the transfer window because it's Chelsea, and Twitter will lose its shit for a couple of days, and then he might not actually do anything while he's there. It kind of has that sort of feel to it.
Well, it's the same. I don't know if you remember the Jean-Michel Seri. It was like everyone was linked with him. He was the best player in the world. He was Ramsey and Kante combined, was going to break up every attack and score 30 goals, and then went to Fulham out of nowhere, and everyone was moaning about it. And I think he was at Hull last season.
Yeah, he was at Hull. I didn't even realise that until I totally missed that move. And then suddenly I was watching a Hull game or something. I was reading a report about Hull for some reason, and I saw his name mentioned. I was like, bloody hell, what's he doing there? Yeah, that was a fall from grace. The Arsenal did like Seri. I remember I spoke to someone who I absolutely fully trusted around that time, and and they absolutely were sort of tracking him. He was of interest, but obviously they didn't do it, and it certainly worked out pretty well for them. Look, we hit the 50-minute mark, so I think we're going to take a break right now. We're going to come back to the second part of the show, which is going to be over on Team News and Tix' Patreon account, which you can get to by following the description below. So until tomorrow, everyone, I'll be back doing my usual show. You want to get involved in that, as always, questions, comments, opinions, get down in the comments below. I'll pull something together and get them included. Myself and Team News and Tix will be back on this YouTube channel next week to do it all over again. Thanks for watching, everyone. Speak to you soon. Bye-bye.